Okay, hello. For you, for those that don't know me, I'm Togrinder. I'm a Mage theory crafter, guide writer, and expert in the Alter Time Discord. I'm going to be talking about Arcane tree in this video. If you want my thoughts on the general tree, I do have a video specifically for that. I will link it along with videos for the other two specs. Um, and also, if you're worried, I do still have the clicky pen, but I have my noise filter on, so you shouldn't be able to hear it this time. Um, let's get stuck into it. So like many of the trees, I think the first couple of things we don't really get much of a choice. I'll try and run through what I think I would pick as I'm going along, and then I'll try and like change a few talents around once I've filled it out. But just going through them, Arcane Barrage, same thing we have today. Arcane Missiles. Um, it's interesting for something like Rule of Threes to be this early on. I thought this was one of those things that would be a choice, but I guess you can consider that these things are just functionally baseline now. So clear casting is the other one, and just clarifying that it's exactly the same. I think one thing I would like about clear casting is I would like a bit of bad luck protection on clear casting. Like it's possible right now for you to basically burn your entire mana bar and get no clear casting procs. So it would be nice if there was bad luck protection on this, but yeah, I mean it's a proc. It does what it does. So Arcane Familiar, summons a familiar, increases your maximum mana, same as it is on live. Arcane Missile damage, talk about this one in a sec. Arcane Explosion damage, and Arcane Blast is a chance to generate an additional Arcane Charge. So this one, I guess, is just a little bit of spice in the rotation, something to react to. Arcane's quite static outside of clear casting. But the big thing here is Arcane Surge. So if you've not been paying attention, Arcane Power is functionally gone. The new cooldown for Arcane is Arcane Surge. So it has a cast time, just for those that are curious. 2.5 second cast, 1.5 minute cooldown. You spend all of your current mana to deal damage to the target and nearby enemies for blah 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 damage based on the mana spent. So basically it consumes your mana bar and converts mana to damage. And it deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets, so it is an AoE spell. Then for the next 12 seconds, your mana regen is increased by 450% and spell damage is increased by 10%. And the spell damage gets buffed up here. So realistically, it lasts 15 seconds and gives you 35% increased spell damage. For reference, the mana regen is less than Evocation in terms of mana per second, but you will regen more total mana because the buff lasts longer. I think it's about, gives you about half the regen that Evo gives you, but it lasts like 3 times as long. Just in case you're not sure how much 450% is. I like this. Arcane has had an issue where it's trying to be a mana spec and it's trying to be a cooldown spec, and they can't both happen at the same time unless your cooldowns require you to have mana, which has just not been the boat we're in. Like the way mana should work is it's a thing that you can spend whenever you want to deal damage at a very fundamental level, but that's not what ends up happening because Rune of Power, Arcane Power, Touch of the Magi, they're all too important, and the spec becomes a burst spec. This keeps it as a burst spec, but like you still care about your mana somewhat because you want to be at really high mana when you go into Arcane Surge, and as we'll see later, you might not always have Evocate. So I actually really like this. It's a fresh coat of paint for Arcane, I suppose. The spec's been pretty static for a while. I know we had Arcane Harmony with Carry and Arcane that kind of spiced things up, but considering that that was a bit of an accident, I didn't want to rely on it returning. It has, spoiler, it has come back, but um, as far as the traditional Arcane goes, this is a big change, and I do really, really like it. I would say with something like this, and with some of the other talents that are appearing in this tree, I think you need to be quite open-minded when looking at the Arcane tree. I think you need to see it as almost a mini rework rather than just talents. Like if you look at something like the Fire tree, you're basically just going to be playing something very similar to what you're playing in Shadowlands, but with Arcane, that's not the case. So I was to pick some of these talents. Let's say I'm doing some Kiri and Arcane jazz. So the next row, Arcane Tempo, consuming Arcane Charges increases your haste. Sure. Improved Arcane Barrage. This is what makes your Arcane Barrage cleave. Prismatic Barrier, extra DR for reference. The DR right now is 15%, so this will up it to 20. Man Adept, this is built into Arcane Barrage in Shadowlands. was a legendary in Legion, and I don't know where it was in BFA. I don't think I spec'd into Arcane one string BFA. Nether Precision. Consuming clear casting increases damage you're next to Arcane Blast by 20%. Again, I think it's just a little thing to try and spice up Arcane. Arcane's quite static. And then when clear cast, Arcane fires 3 additional missiles. Stal makes it fire 2 today, and clear casting I think is already too good. So this is a strange one. Again, it goes back to what I was saying. I really hope they put some kind of bad luck protection on clear casting. Otherwise it very feels bad. So this one's busted. This one's probably necessary. And this is weird. Arcane Barrage deals 15% increased damage for targeted hits, but you can. Okay, because it counts the main target. Sure, that's fine. Let's back into this, and let's back into Arcane Power. So Arcane Surge, already showed it, lasts longer and deals more damage. Let's look at the next row. So Palm, Presence of Mind. It is back down to 2 Arcane Blasts. It's 3 on live. It was 2 for a while, but I don't know if there's a talent to increase it back up to 3. I don't see one. I don't see one easily like down here. But something I would really like to see with Presence of Mind is for it to be charge based. Maybe it's less of an issue now that we have Ice Flows in the main tree, but being able to have like 2 charges of Palm or 3 charges and then just use them like as you need them, I think is a lot nicer and would help Arcane a lot more. But whatever, it is what it is right now. Foresight. So standing still for 10 seconds grants you Foresight, allowing you to cast while moving for 4 seconds. And that doesn't start counting until you start moving. This was a legendary in Legion. I don't think it showed up in any form. It might be a legendary in Shadowlands. Okay, it's been pretty bad every time it showed up. Obviously, a legendary is a much bigger investment than a single point talent is. This is not where I expected this guy to show up, but it's not bad. Whenever you look at the main tree, we've got Master of Time, we've got Shimmer, we've got the option of Ice Flows. Slipstream is also in the Arcane tree. There's like a lot of abilities that are kind of mopey for movement, but there might be enough of them that you actually have really, really good movement. And I think that is the boat. Like, I think Arcane will be quite a mobile spec. We'll see if it competes with Fire and Execute. Probably not, but very few specs can. Enlightened, Arcane damage dealt while above 70% mana is increased by 8%, and mana regen while below 70% is increased by 20%. This playstyle's been around in a couple of different forms over the years. It's very polarizing. Some people really like it, some people dislike it. I think mana is a little bit of a fake resource anyway. I'm not really sure if it accomplishes what it tries to accomplish. I don't really feel super strongly about it. I think it's fine. A lot of people like that it makes you pay attention to the number of mana you're at rather than just like, do you have enough? But I think with Arcane Surge that already makes you do that, so I don't know. This is one of those talents that if you don't like the gameplay aspect of it, tough shit, because it's 1 point and it's pretty centered in the trees, so you're probably going to have to end up playing with it most of the time, I would think. Yeah, Arcane Power, Resonance, Arcane Barrage deals extra damage, Slipstream, and Clear Casting can stack 2 extra times. So let's say I was to pick this, and then I guess we've unlocked the next row already. So I'll go through the next row. Nether Tempest places a Nether Tempest on the target, which deals blah blah damage. Essentially, it's a dot that deals damage based on your charges, but it does not consume your charges, if I remember right. Yeah, I've said in previous videos, just because a talent is bad on live doesn't mean it's going to be bad in a new tree. Talents can be bad on live for lots of reasons. They might be competing with really good talents. They might just not fit with the current systems. There's lots of reasons why a talent might not see play, and you need to be open-minded and challenge your assumptions about what you think is good. This is very out of the way and requires me to go through Palm first, but who knows? It could end up that Arcane can like multi-dot or something. Oh, never mind. It's limit 1 target. Okay. I don't know. The last time this talent was good, it was a really degenerate, like you press Nether Tempest and then just AFK'd and then press Nether Tempest again. So I don't know. This ability's had a rough time. I don't have strong feelings on it gameplay wise. Chrono Shift same as it is. Touch of the Magi, I get this one is pretty much a hard lock. It just still generates charges, so it still does the same thing it does today. Supernova. It's an AoE spell that basically knocks everything up, and the primary target takes extra damage. This is really good. So Arcane is already getting a big buff in Mythic Plus because it's getting access to Dragon's Breath, but like Supernova is also like a sort of CC for Mythic Plus. Knockups can be pretty good. It's also an AoE. It's also just AoE damage, right? It's not like I don't think it's a lot of AoE damage, but like this is like good. I think this is like the type of thing that Arcane really needed. Not sure if you'll use it in raids, but it's definitely good in Mythic Plus. Okay. Evocation is now a talent. Arcane charges further increase your mastery effectiveness of Arcane Blast and Arcane Barrage by 10%. I'm assuming that that's just increase the damage you get per charge. Arcane Echo is the same as it is today. You hit something with Totem and they pulse AoE damage. Arcane Bombardment. Arcane Barrage deals an additional 50% damage against targets below 50% health. This tooltip is wrong. I believe it's only 35% health. I should get someone to confirm that. I have heard it's only 35% health, but that's still a lot of damage. So for those that are wondering, whenever 8.3, no, what patch are we in? 9.3, 9.2. Yeah, 9.2 was coming out, and there was obviously rumors that we were getting second legendary, and like, how was that going to work? Obviously, we ended up getting Unity, which was our Covenant legendary, but before that happened, I kind of ran some sims on what it would look like if we were allowed to equip two legendaries. Some of you might have been around when I shared the results of it, but Arcane's Execute with Arcane Harmony and Arcane Bombardment is like fucking nuts. Like, it is insanely good. So if that's coming back, even if this tooltip's wrong, we'll need to see exactly where the numbers land on it, but there's potential for Arcane to be like a very real Execute class. And combined with Resonance and improved Arcane Barrage, like, okay, like some of the talents in this tree are really mopey, but there is like a very clear, defined role of like Funnel and Execute. Funnel's not something that the other specs do right now. Frost is not really Funnel anymore. It still does good priority damage, but its Funnel is kind of a thing of the past. Fire has Execute, but if they kind of balance it out in a way where like Arcane does more damage in Execute, but Fire has more mobility in Execute, like it's still possible for those two Execute classes to like, or the two Execute specs to coexist on the same class. So I do really like this. Big fan of anything that gives Arcane an actual role because it's really struggled with that. Clear casting has increased chance to proc, seems good. And Conjure Mana Gem. Okay, so let's see, what talents could I take to get down? Improved Arcane Barrage? Probably taking it a lot of the time. Actually, I probably need Enlightened. So if I go this way, then I need to spend one more point. This is probably nice. And this gives me access to Slipstream, actually. That's what I need. I just need to spend 2 more points. It probably makes sense for that to be like Arcane Familiar and Improved Arcane Barrage. But I kind of don't want any of these things, if I'm going to be totally honest. I probably want Arcane Bombardment, which gives me access to Radiant Spark. Spoiler. So I'll go through the capstone traits and the ones that lead into them. So Evocation leads into this sort of pseudo capstone trait, which is either Improved Evocation, which puts Evocate on a 60-second cooldown, or Siphon Storm, which is the stacking damage buff whenever you Evocate. Evocate's a 2-minute cooldown by default, so I think Siphon Storm is still probably the better out of these two. I think, especially since Arcane Surge gives you a pseudo Evocate effect, and you will probably be spec'd into Time Anomaly, which means you're going to get random Surge procs, which are going to give you mana. I really don't think you need to be evocating once every minute. We'll see, but you know, we've got the extra mana regen from this, and there's only so much mana that you can convert into damage without cooldowns, and your cooldowns are probably taxed already. So I think Siphon Storm is good. It is a little awkward that it's will desync from Arcane Surge, but the buff lasts long enough that it should be okay. But we'll see. Arcane Orb, same spell that we have on live today. It's kind of interesting that people were asking for Arcane Orb baseline for literally forever, and then they finally got it, and now it's probably in a not very good spot in the tree. And an Orb Barrage. Casting Arcane Missiles 15 times fires an Arcane Orb towards your target. Clear cast Arcane Missiles count as 2. An Arcane Orb gains 1 additional charge. So I guess this Orb Barrage is what they're giving us instead of the Legion Legendary. There's a Legendary in Legion that whenever you barraged, there's a chance to launch an orb per charge spent. I definitely like this. I don't really like these cast spells get a thing. Like, I don't like Molten Skyfall. I don't like Cold Front. It's slightly better for Arcane because I think that Orb is a little more interactive whenever it actually fires off compared to other things that Frost and Fire have. That said, it's kind of awkward because it was better on Barrage because where you really want this AoE, but then here it's Arcane Missiles and you don't have Arcane Prodigy, so it's kind of like, it feels like it's pulling you in two different directions. And then Radiant Spark, this is the same as it is today. Obviously no Conduit. And Harmonic Echo. I believe, for those wondering, the bug where where you couldn't double dip on the last part of Radiant Spark and Harmonic Echo, I believe it still works like that. Probably very unlikely it would get fixed, if I'm going to be honest. Concentration. Arcane Blast has a chance to grant expanded potential, which causes your next clear casting to not be consumed. Fine. I mean, you're going to pick it if you want Arcane Harmony anyway. So let's say I wanted to build Kyrian Arcane. So I'm obviously going to pick this, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to pick this. Which leaves me with 3 points. Which is not a lot. Like, I already feel like I've picked everything. So, like, if I was to take Arcane Echo is still good, even if you're not playing, like, an Arcane Missile style build. Like, if you Radiant Spark into Touch of the Magi, like, even though you only deal 4 or 5 instances of damage versus the, I don't know, 15 or whatever that Arcane Missiles would do, like, it's still good. Just not quite as good. And then what is even my last talent? Okay, let's say I was to go Palm, just to grey out what I don't have. So I've missed Arcane Explosion damage, I've missed Supernova, I've missed some utility on movement, and I've missed another Arcane Explosion thing. So it's entirely possible that I would not take Arcane Echo, and that these 2 talents would go into like Nether Tempest, Evocate, or something like Mana Gem. And I don't know if I showed this, but it's whenever you Mana Gem, you get a spell power buff. Not a fan. I don't like attaching damage to your utility. I guess Mana Gem's not really utility, but you want to use it in your room, not when you're about to burst. So like, I feel like if you're about to cast a big Arcane Surge into Radiant Spark, like, you don't care, you're at full mana, you're just going to Mana Gem so that you get the damage buff. So it feels a little awkward there. What else can I get with these last points? I think I can get Arcane Orb? No, I can't. That's rough. So I feel like the best options are probably Nether Tempest, Evocate. Oh, I haven't picked up Harmonic Echo, actually. That means I only have 2 points. That is really rough. It's probably the 2 Mana Gems, this guy, or Arcane Echo. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it was Arcane Echo. I think the biggest... So there's a positive and a negative that I'm looking at here. The negative is that this tree doesn't seem very flexible. Like, if you ask me, oh, I want to build around Evocate and Siphon Storm, and I want Arcane Orb. Like, I don't know what you drop for those things. Like, I don't think this is a powerful enough capstone trait for you to drop these things. It is worth noting, like, Arcane Harmony's nerfed compared to live. It's 5%. It says here 5%, but I think it is 5%. Yeah, it's 5%. It stacks up to 20 times. So the total damage is 100% increased damage on Barrage, which is down from, I believe, 144% from 18 stacks. So it takes more stacks to get a worse damage buff. That said, it's still probably good enough. Like, this side of the tree just doesn't seem very powerful, and it means other than like 2 or 3 points, and maybe the utility points, I don't think there's much you can change here. The positives I see in this tree are I actually like the end result of this. Like, if I was to step in game with this version of Arcane, like, I think I'd be pretty happy about it. You have, like I said before, you have a very clear role. Resonance, improved Arcane Barrage, really, really good funnel. You've got Execute. Um, like, those two things on their own are not like niche, but they're definitely like things that you would want to bring a spec for, and they're definitely, whenever you're looking at the mage specs going into a raid, like, you need to be aware of those things. Um, who knows, the spec might still be lacking a little bit on single target. I don't think any of these things really help with that. So I don't know. They need to keep their eye on tuning a bit here, but I think it's a bad tree, but I do like the end result, as weird as that sounds. Okay, let me try. Let's say I was to do a Mythic Plus build instead. So the things I'd want are I want improved Arcane Explosion, most likely. I want Reverberate, and I probably want Supernova. So I'm almost certainly dropping Echo for, let's say, these two. And I only need to drop one more thing. What is that one more thing? Maybe it's this. Oh, I need that for clear casting. So, and this is then like the other issue I was like running into. Like, it doesn't feel like you have a lot of points to drop. I think I'd probably drop Arcane Familiar. Um, but again, like, it's an AoE build. I've got my Arcane Explosion traits are down the right side of the tree, but like I need Arcane improved Arcane Barrage because like it's where most of your damage comes from in like 4 or 5 targets. So yeah, again, like this is probably fine. This is fun. You've got your knock up. You have Dragon's Breath from the main tree. You've got good utility. You've probably got good damage. It's just the tree itself has very low flexibility. Now, Alpha could come up and people could go into dungeons and I could be talking out of my arse and actually these things are just busted. These are just my first impressions. Um, we'll never know until we can like sim stuff, get in game, actually play about. Um, but yeah, the tree itself feels quite weak, quite low in the flexibility front. I think a lot of stuff needs moved around here. I think these very 1 point wonders that are just this thing does more damage, this thing procs more, this thing um, gives you a proc that makes another thing do more damage. Like I think there's too many. It feels like there's kind of too many of those floating about. So yeah, I think some of that needs condensed, but I'm not in a first impressions video. I'm not really sure if I can articulate how and why that should be done. But shit one, I guess. Uh, no, you definitely want this. I don't even know where I get the second point for arcane explosion damage, to be honest. Uh, yeah, like that's how rough this is. Um, because I don't think I can drop into the single point here. Like I think even if I like improved arcane barrage is better than the second point in this, and I don't. This is better than the second point in this. Yeah, I could sit here for a while, but yeah, that's my big criticism of this tree. Just really low flexibility, but I like the end result. So if you like this video, I think that this one was a bit more rambly because I just think I'm less clued in with Arcane than I am on other specs, but hopefully you liked it anyway. Check out my other videos, especially the general tree. I know I didn't cover it in this video. I'm kind of assuming that you've watched that video. I'm kind of telling you now, but that's too late. But better late than never. So go check that out. Like, comment, subscribe. Go check out my guides. And most of all, leave feedback for these. I do want to try and get into the content creation business a little bit more. So any feedback is useful feedback. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.